I do have to comment on the most ridiculous story of the day. So the most ridiculous story of the day comes courtesy of our friends in Finland. According to Breitbart.com, Finland made a special show of virtue signaling to the transgender community. They showcased a 59-year-old transgender farmer who bore the country's flag during the opening ceremony for the European Figure Skating Championships in Espoo, Finland on Wednesday. The skater is a person named Minna-Maria Antikainen, who previously known as Markku-Pekka Antikainen, a 59-year-old biological male who came out as trans a few years ago and decided to take up figure skating, and thus is the greatest figure skater who has ever lived. Not because this biological male, who is nearly 60, is good at figure skating, no. Because this dude says he's a lady. That means he's amazing at figure skating. So we have to pretend that not only is this person a female, but that this person is a good figure skater. So behold, the glories of transgender figure skater Minna-Maria Antikainen, such an amazing figure skater that this person bore the flag of the country during the opening ceremony for the European Figure Skating Championships. It's not, by the way, any sort of attempt to gain attention. It's not an attempt to be celebrated. It's all perfect authenticity. Don't notice the quality of the skating, guys. This is an amazing skater. You need to watch. If you say differently, it's because you hate trans people. It's probably because you want the trans suicide rate among youth to go up if you notice that this person is not a good figure skater. By the way, this person is a terrible figure skater. When I say that, I mean like he is going to fall down in the first 45 seconds of this routine. Behold, the power of trans figure skating in Finland. Look at that. Look at the stability on the ice. That's a woman. That is a beautiful woman, folks. Oh, turn around. Oh, there it is. Turned around. Spotlight is on you. Up, down he goes. Executing a zero axle. A zero toe loop. And cannot get back up. Up. He has fallen and he cannot get back up. Don't notice that. She is an amazingly beautiful figure skater. Do not notice. Are you noticing? Are you noticing? Did you notice? You're not allowed to notice. You bigot you. You're a bigot. So the media are pushing a couple of narratives. One of them is, of course, that the most important thing here to do is to curtail the police, which, of course, is going to end very, very badly for impoverished, crime-ridden communities. The other narrative has to do with racism. But here's the thing. In life, you don't need the narrative. You actually need the delivery of the thing that you want. This is particularly true when it comes to business. You don't need a bunch of people selling a bunch of stuff. What you actually need is to save money and to save time. This is why we use Stamps.com over at Daily Wire. Stamps.com is a one-stop shop for all your shipping and mailing needs. They've teamed up with the post office to get you huge mailing and shipping discounts of up to 86% off. They do all the work for you. Print your own postage directly from your home or office within minutes. No lines, no traffic, no waiting. Here at Daily Wire, we don't waste our time. We've used Stamps.com since 2017. Start the new year by saving money on mailing and shipping. Get started with Stamps.com today. Sign up with promo code Shapiro for a special offer. It includes a 4-week trial plus free postage, free digital scale included. No long-term commitments, no contracts. Just go to Stamps.com, click the microphone at the top of the page, enter code Shapiro. We've been using Stamps.com here at Daily Wire for years. Just one of the reasons we're a very successful business. Head on over to Stamps.com, click that microphone at the top of the homepage, enter code Shapiro to get started and get that fantastic deal. Save yourself some time and save yourself some money with Stamps.com. There are a lot of employees of major news networks who will tell you lies about, racial narratives where racial narratives really are inappropriate. You need better employees than that. That's why you need ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter is going to make your life so much easier because ZipRecruiter gets you the employees you need in a tough market to find great employees. And there is a technology that can easily find the right person for your job. That is ZipRecruiter. They use their matching technology. Don't you wish that dating actually worked as well as ZipRecruiter? Right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. ZipRecruiter uses powerful technology to find the right candidates for your job. If you see a candidate you like, you can easily send them a personal invite so they're more likely to apply. If you're really looking to catch someone's eye, ZipRecruiter offers attention-grabbing labels that speak to job flexibility, like urgent or remote. You can find candidates you're crazy about with ZipRecruiter. We've been using it here at Daily Wire ourselves. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the very first day. See for yourself. Head on over to ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire to try ZipRecruiter for free. Again, that is ZipRecruiter.com/DAILYWIRE. ZipRecruiter is indeed the smartest way to hire. A bunch of our employees here at Daily Wire from ZipRecruiter. You should do the same. Upgrade your employee base with ZipRecruiter.com/dailywire. The media they've outdone themselves this weekend. So we had the entire narrative this weekend that 5 black cops allegedly killing a black guy was white supremacy. We had that narrative this weekend, which is an extraordinary narrative. We also had another extraordinary media narrative. And that media narrative is that a Palestinian Arab murdering 7 people near a Jerusalem synagogue, that's a cycle of violence, you see. Now, you might ask yourself, how is an act of terroristic murder against civilians attending shul on Friday night? How exactly is that a cycle of violence? Oh, you don't understand. Those Jews were in Jerusalem. Now, you might still be saying to yourself, hold on a second. You mean Jews were in the historic capital of the Jewish people and the modern day capital of the state of Israel, and they were murdered going to shul on Friday night. And how is that a cycle? You don't understand. They were in Jerusalem, you see. Jews shouldn't be there. Therefore, it's okay if somebody murders them. That's part of a cycle of violence. And the state of Israel should basically just accept that sitting down and do nothing about it. And if they do something about it, that means that the government of Israel is apparently racist and illegitimate. I have to understand the actual geopolitics of what's going on here, the backdrop to what happened over this weekend. The backdrop is this. Israel had a coalition, a very fractious coalition government for about a year and a half. And that fractious coalition government included an Arab party that does not stand for the existence of the state of Israel, for example. It included left-wing parties. It included some center parties. And it was always going to fall apart. It was really unstable, that coalition. Then there was an election. It was like the fourth election in 5 years in Israel. And Benjamin Netanyahu and the right-wing coalition won. And one of the reasons they won is because of an uptick in violence that Jews had been suffering in places like Jerusalem. And so now the right-wing coalition won. And so the left in Israel has been doing what the left in the United States does. When they lose an election, they declare the election illegitimate. They say that fascism is taking over. Now, it's not fascism when the side you don't like wins the election. Joe Biden and the Democrats won the 2020 election. I didn't like that. Didn't make it fascism. The same thing is true in Israel. The right wins, but the left declares that it is fascism. And when Benjamin Netanyahu and his right-wing coalition, when they decide that they would like to restrict the unfettered actual fascistic power of the judiciary in Israel, as I've discussed before, the judiciary is self-appointed, essentially. It is not subject to approval by Knesset. It is not nominated by the prime minister. None of that. It's not the way it works in the United States. And then they make rulings based on a non-existent constitution. They'll literally just sit there and they will say that based on nothing, they're going to rule something out of bounds or illegitimate. The attorney general in the state of Israel is not a member of the executive branch. It's very weird. So they're trying to fix that. That apparently is fascism. The real answer is that the left in Israel is trying to make it's really gross. They're trying to make common cause with an international media that despises the state of Israel in order to bring down the right-wing coalition in Israel. And you know who is sensing that is Palestinian terror groups. So what they're attempting to do is create terror attacks in order to jar the right-wing coalition into taking strong action. And then they're hoping that the international community will condemn the right-wing government because they don't like the right-wing government in the first place. That's really what's happening over there. It's pretty obvious that is the plan here. So over the weekend, a Palestinian terrorist murdered 7 people and wounded 3 others in a synagogue in Jerusalem's Neve Yaakov neighborhood. According to police, this is the Times of Israel reporting, a terrorist arrived by car at 8:13 p.m. in the Jewish East Jerusalem neighborhood and opened fire at people outside the synagogue and others passerby. He then fled the scene by car toward the Palestinian neighborhood of Beit Hanina, which is several hundred meters away, where about 5 minutes later, he encountered officers who were called to the scene. The terrorist was then shot dead after he exited the car and opened fire on the officers while trying to escape on foot. A handgun used in the attack was seized. According to Channel 12 News, which is the biggest news channel in Israel, the terrorist first shot an elderly woman in the street. This is all cycle of violence, guys, shooting elderly women in the street. Then encountered a motorcycle rider and shot him. Then he reached the Ateret Avraham synagogue and opened fire at people outside. Magen David Adom, which is essentially Red Cross in Israel, said its medics declared 5 victims dead at the scene. Another 2 victims were declared dead at hospitals in Jerusalem. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, speaking after visiting the scene, called the attack one of the most severe we have known in years. Okay, so how exactly did Palestinians respond? Well, they shot off fireworks and they handed out sweets. That's what you would do, right? I mean, if there was a terror attack in which a bunch of innocent people had been murdered, I know you'd probably hand out the candies and shoot off the fireworks. That's actually what happened. The mother of the attacker, whose son had been killed earlier, her son was dead. She was handing out candy to people, celebrating the murder of innocent Jews going to synagogue on a Friday night. Here is the video. Here she is handing out candy. Guys, the peace process is alive and well. These are folks you can negotiate with. People who murder innocent men, women, and children, old people, and then hand out candies when their own kids are killed doing that. According to the Times of Israel, Palestinian media reported celebrations in cities across the West Bank, including Ramallah, Nablus, and Jenin, and parts of East Jerusalem. Videos showed fireworks, celebratory gunfire, drivers honking horns, bonfires, and crowds chanting. This sounds like the peace process is it's alive and well, isn't it? It's going amazing. Masked men flashed victory signs and passed out treats in the West Bank city of Hebron. At several dozen locations across the Gaza Strip, Palestinians gathered in spontaneous demonstrations to celebrate the attack, with sun coming out of dessert shops with large trays of sweets to distribute. Cycle of violence, guys, cycle of violence. You know, people like breathing and going to synagogue. And they were breathing and going to synagogue in a historically Jewish area. That obviously is a serious problem. This, of course, prompted the Biden administration to do what it does best, which is morally equivocate. So Karine Jean-Pierre suggested both sides need to de-escalate. See, on the one hand, you have the Israeli army, which is going in and trying to kill terrorists in places like Jenin and succeeding in killing terrorists in places like Jenin. On the other hand, you have terrorists who are murdering old people and children at a synagogue. That's a cycle of violence, and both sides need to de-escalate, says Karine Jean-Pierre.
There are at least 7 people who have been killed in an attack on a synagogue in Jerusalem. I don't know if you've heard that or not. Do you have any comments?
No, I have not heard of that, but clearly we have been asking both sides to de-escalate, and we'll continue to do that.
Oh, well, you've been asking both sides to de-escalate. One side is targeting terrorists. The other is using terrorists to target children. Both sides really need to calm that down. Obviously, that really is the problem. Just slow clap for the moral geniuses over at the Biden administration. By the way, what kind of moral genius leads to this situation? Jerusalem Post reported over the weekend, this is not the only shooting. There's another shooting. A 13-year-old resident of East Jerusalem opened fire on a group of pedestrians walking home from Sabbath services on Saturday morning near the city of David, archaeological site in Jerusalem. I've been there a lot. Ir David. We just filmed over there with Jordan Peterson. A 47-year-old father and his 22-year-old son were shot by the child terrorist. A question, what kind of culture actually supplies child terrorists? Hamas spokesperson Hazem Qassem, remember, this is a person who literally governs the Gaza Strip, welcomed the attack, saying, quote, the heroic action in Silwan is a confirmation of the continuation of the resistance actions in all the occupied territories and in response to the crimes of the occupation against our people in the holy places. Yes, 13-year-olds shooting random shul-goers. That is a heroic thing, according to the supposed peace partners that Israel is supposed to be really generous with. Here's how the New York Times covers this. Again, the media are just garbage. They are hot garbage. It's disgusting. Here's the New York Times headline. You ready for this? Amid spasm of violence, Israel's far-right government raises risk of escalation. That's the problem, guys. It's Israel's government. They're raising the risk of escalation. A 13-year-old shoots a couple of people outside of a historic Jewish site, an archaeological dig, and 7 Jews are murdered outside of synagogue in Jerusalem. And it's a spasm of just, like you have a spasm of your stomach. It's like a spasm. It just sort of happens. And the real problem here is that Israel's far-right government is the problem. Can you see how ridiculously gross this particular narrative is? I mean, imagine that after 9/11, the headline that the New York Times ran was, amid spasm of violence, George W. Bush administration raises risk of escalation. That's essentially what you're talking about here from the New York Times. It's so disgusting. Seriously. Alrighty, guys, the rest of the show is continuing right now. You're not going to want to miss it. We'll be getting into Ronna Romney McDaniel winning re-election as head of the RNC for some unspecified reason. Plus, the media declaring that if you are a Jew and you go to synagogue in Jerusalem and you get shot, that's a cycle of violence. If you're not a member, become a member. Use code Shapiro at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans. Click the link in the description and join us.